Hey everyone, I am Robin the Copy Bitch, and this is Stewie, my sidekick sloth. And today we are going to talk about how to charge for copywriting a website. Now, I know that how to charge for your copywriting services is one of the most stressful things on the planet, at least in copyland. I get it. It is, even for those of us who've been around for a while, like me. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and it still can be a little confounding and stressful. So I'm going to walk you through it. Today we're going to talk about the value of copywriting, an approach that you'll hear about that you shouldn't use. And there are very few times when I actually use the word shouldn't, because there's always a different way and, a counterpoint, but you'll want to avoid this way. And then I'm going to talk about the way you should use, because more than likely if you're watching this video, you are in the early stages of copywriting. Maybe you haven't even landed your first client yet, or maybe you're sitting here with a prospect who wants a quote from you for their website and you're like, what should I charge? I'm going to help you, okay? That's why I'm here, and Stewie too. So before we talk money, let's talk value, as in the value you're delivering when you write website copy. I'm talking about sparkling prose, SEO optimized website copy. SEO stands for search engine optimization. And I should mention, I'm assuming you know what that means. For the purpose of this exercise, I'm assuming you know how to write website copy, that you've done some classes or studying or practice. So if you haven't done that, go do that, then come back to this. But let's get to it, okay? When you're writing a website, it's one of the most complex projects that a copywriter can do because there's so much that goes into it. So if you're working one-on-one with a small business owner, or maybe the marketing manager in a small business, the things that you're going to be doing before you even start writing, you'll be talking to the client about their business, making sure you understand what it is they do, what are their goals, who their target audience is. You're going to want to do some competitor research, looking at the competitors' websites. What do they do well? What don't they do well? You'll want to have a larger messaging discussion. You'll want to talk about tone. You'll want to look at the existing website. If they're doing a website relaunch, you'll want to understand the motivation behind the relaunch. You'll want to know what pages currently work well, and will they be coming over to the new site? What pages haven't been working well? There's just so much that goes into a website relaunch, especially for a big site. This is before you actually do any writing. You're going to want to do keyword research. This is a big deal, with a few exceptions when you might not need to do as much, and I'll be getting into that. But keyword research, it takes time. You need to look at the keywords that the competitors use, the keywords that your client is currently using on their current site. What's working well? What are some new words? You want to do that whole analysis. Again, you haven't written anything yet, okay? So a lot of work goes into it before you even sit down to write, and then you have to write the site. I know what you're looking for. You want a formula. You want me to say, here's what you should charge for a 10-page website, or here's what your per page rate should be. Unfortunately, no such formula exists. There are ranges, there are recommendations, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have to figure out this quote for yourself. But don't worry, I'm gonna give you some guidelines, and you're gonna walk away from this video having an idea about what to propose to a client, because that's probably why you're here. Okay, now that we've talked about the value, and you can understand the value that you're bringing to the table, and the other thing you have to remember with a website is once you deliver that copy and that website is built, that website works 24/7 on behalf of the client. Like, it is just working overnight, it's working when you're sleeping, it is working all the time. And if it's doing its job well, which it is, because you know how to write well, right? It's going to be bringing in traffic that'll turn into leads, that'll turn into customers. So again, you're delivering something very valuable to the client, and you need to be paid well accordingly. So this is the reason why you do not want to do an hourly rate. You don't want to do an hourly rate for any copywriting services, and you will hear some people who do the hourly rate, and I just don't recommend it. And again, you have to make the decision for yourself. There are going to be very few things where I say don't do, but this is one of them. Don't do an hourly rate. And there are a couple reasons why. The main reason why is it's stressful. It's stressful even for me to talk about it, okay? Because here's the thing. We are all humans, except for this guy. And when you give someone an hourly rate, they're going to fixate on it, even if they're not aware that they're fixating on it. I'm talking about the client. They're going to, in the back of their head, they're going to be like, oh, how much time is this taking them? I just really have to take them that long. And they're going to overlook the awesome copy and the value that you're bringing to the table because they're worried about the rate. It's one of the reasons why people hate working with lawyers, because we're always talking about, billable hours and things like that. And how much is this going to cost? Same idea. You don't want to have that feeling kicking off in your project. So an hourly rate does not work well for clients. And you know what? It's stressful for you too, because you will have days where you are in the zone and you are crushing the copy and you are just pounding it out. And that's awesome. You're still delivering value, but maybe you're doing it really, really fast. Why should you get penalized for being faster? And likewise, on those days when maybe it's a bit more of a slog and it's taking you a bit longer, and maybe you spent 6 hours on something and you thought it would only take you 3, that you feel guilty and you don't feel you can charge the 6 hours, by getting rid of the hourly rate, you remove that from the equation. So what I do recommend you do is a project quote. And I recommend doing this pretty much for every type of copywriting project. So now you're saying, okay, that's great, Robin, but what should I charge? Please tell me what to charge. I'm going to get to it. So the first thing I want to remind you is check out the description. This is true for all of my videos, and make sure you check out some of the links. And I'm going to link to the American Writers and Artists Institute. I always get the acronym wrong. AWAI. They put out a yearly copywriting pricing guide, and I'm going to link to it. And you will go to page 36 is where it starts, and they give the price ranges for like 80 plus categories in copywriting. The thing you need to remember is that this is like top tier clients who have like deeper pockets and the truly expert copywriters. So some of these ranges are pretty high. I do fall into most of the ranges, but even me, and I've been doing this for 20 years, some of these prices are really high, and it's because these are usually big brands paying these really big bucks. But it's a starting point, and you can see what, the potential is. So when you're putting together your quote for the website project, you want to think of all the different things that you're going to be doing that I talked about earlier in this video. So you'll be doing keyword research. You're going to have a discovery call with the client where you talk about all the things like the messaging and the tone and competitors. You're going to do competitor research. You're going to do keyword research. Then you're going to actually do the drafting. Then there'll be revisions. So you want to think of all the different things. You're not going to itemize it in the proposal, but internally you should have numbers for those things. So the homepage is usually a separate animal, and I usually charge more for that. So let's just play with some numbers, shall we? Let's say we're doing a 10-page website for a client. I'm not going to tell you who the client is yet because I have a reason for this. Let's say for the homepage, you charge $500. Let's say for the discovery call, you charge $150. Let's say for the competitor research and the review of existing materials, you charge another $500. Let's say for the keyword research, you charge $500. And then let's say your per page rate for the other 9 pages, because the homepage is separate, is $150 a page. If I did my math right, for this 10-page website, for all the things I just talked about, that should be $3,000 for the copywriting quote. How do you feel about that number? Is that number wow, that's awesome, 10 pages of copy and I make $3,000? Or are you oh, that's actually a little low and it should be more? Or are you that's a great number, but can I sell that? Am I worthy? Those are all normal reactions. Trust me, I still have those reactions sometimes when I tally up what I think a project's going to be, and it's ooh, am I worth it? It happens. So now here's the reason why I didn't tell you who the client was for, because this could change things. Now let's say you are doing the copy for a local accounting firm in town. Let's say that they have 30 employees and they actually have 2 offices. They have one in your town and they have one in a few towns away. That $3,000 rate for the copy only is probably doable for a firm like that, because a small business like that, where they might be bringing in a couple, million in revenue a year, let's say, that's probably doable. Don't forget, the $3,000 that you're quoting is just part of the project. There's still the actual website design and all of that. So we're probably looking at a $7,000 to $10,000 website here, with the $3,000 or so being your portion. So a small accounting firm with a couple offices and that sort of revenue, and they really want to do a really outstanding website, that might be, $7,000 to $10,000 website might be doable for them. But let's say now that you are talking to a solopreneur who just opened a local coffee shop. And she's just like one person, maybe her husband's helping her out, but she's so excited and she has this little coffee shop and she has this vision for it, and she's been using her Facebook page as kind of like the website for her coffee shop, but she knows she needs a website presence. Do you think she's going to be able to afford that $3,000 for just the copy for the website, not even the website? And again, I know we're making judgments here, but that's kind of what we do as copywriters. You have to at some point try to get into the mindset of your client. I always say that, right? If you watch my videos or read my blog posts, you know I'm famous for saying you have to know your client's target audience. You know, who are they talking to? What keeps them up at night? What questions do they have? Well, you have to do the same thing with your clients. You have to know where they are. You have to look at things from their perspective and have empathy. So that small business owner who maybe just opened her shop and she knows she needs a website presence, she might not be able to afford $3,000 for copy. And that's where you have to make a decision. And there are different ways to go about it. You could guide her and be like, you know what? You might not need a 10-page site. You might just need a 5-page site. And I don't necessarily need to do competitor research or do, keyword research in the way that you think, because it's all about local search for a coffee shop. Like if someone is looking for a coffee shop in town, they're going to be looking, they're going to Google coffee shop near me. Or if they're new to the town, they'll be like coffee shop Milford or coffee shop Austin or wherever they are. It's all about local search. And you can do that pretty quickly. You don't need to do that deeper keyword analysis like you would for a company that's, a B2B company that's selling some sort of, software product. It's going to be different and you can approach it differently. So maybe you don't do the keyword research, or at least you don't charge for that. Maybe for the home page, you make it the same as the per page rate for the other pages, because again, she might not need a $500 homepage, because a homepage for a local coffee shop is going to be very different than a homepage for a bigger brand where the homepage has to convert and do all sorts of stuff. So maybe you kind of stick with the per page rate that you had. And you don't need to look at a ton of materials, like you get it. And you guide her and you say, okay, I can do this site for $600 and it's just 5 pages or something like that. You see where I'm going? Like, you have to decide at some point what you're willing to do. I don't think you should be writing for free, with very few exceptions in the very beginning when maybe you're trying to get some clips. You should get paid for your work and you are delivering value. But you can still, if you're just writing a 5 to 6 page site and you're getting $600, you probably could do that site pretty quickly and still do well. And now you have a nice clip. And if she does well, there might be work in your future. Maybe you can help her with her social media or a newsletter or something like that. So again, there's no one size fits all. You just need to think about all the work that goes into a website, itemize it in your head, and kind of like put numbers towards it and look at what you're comfortable with. And you know what? The first few website quotes that you put together and put out there are going to be learning experiences. There are ones that you're going to hit right and be like, you know what? That worked out well. Like that 10-page site that I quoted for $3,000 and it only took me however many hours. Like, you might realize, you know what? I did really well. And then there's going to be a site where you're like, I should have charged more. And it still happens. Even after 20 plus years, it still happens. But those are the things you need to think about when you're doing your copywriting quotes for websites. So let's recap, shall we? First of all, remember the value that you're delivering. Websites are working 24/7 on behalf of the client. They're bringing in business regularly. If you're writing great copy that does that, it's going to pay for itself, and then some, quickly. So you're delivering great value. Think of all the things that go into creating a great website. You have the keyword research, you have the discovery call, you have the messaging, you have the competitor research, you have the review of all the materials on the existing site. That's before the writing happens. Then you actually have to write the darn thing. So, there's a lot. Avoid hourly quotes. They just stress everybody out. They're messy, and you should not get penalized for being fast or getting faster. And you will get faster. The more you do this, you'll be able to write copy fast. The value's still there. You should still get paid for it. Do not do hourly quotes. Could I say that any stronger? Put together a project quote. Think about all the different elements, give them a number, and see how you feel about that final number. Think about the person you're giving the quote to. Do you think it could work for their budget? Here's another tip. You could actually ask the person you're talking to, be like, hey, do you have a budget for this website? Just to see where they're at. And you could tell them like the whole website. Design, copy. That way that gives them some wiggle room. And they might say, hey, yeah, I have a budget of $5,000 for everything soup to nuts. And that gives you an idea as to whether you could actually fit into that. Or if they come back and say, yeah, my budget is $1,000 for everything, you might realize, okay, I have to really rethink this, or maybe I need to kind of tell them to like, do fewer pages, like with the coffee shop example. So there are ways to go about it. And you know what? You might have to walk away. And that's where you have to decide, how badly do you want the work? When you're starting out, you might be willing to work for a little bit less money to build your portfolio and your confidence, and that's okay. But at some point, you do need to get good about saying, you know what, I'm worth more than that, and I wish you luck. At some point, you have to stand up for yourself. You might not be there yet. If you're watching this video, you're probably not, and that's okay. You will get there. And like I said, I'm going to link to AWAI's guide. You should read through it, because that's going to be very eye-opening. And it's going to show you what the potential is in this industry. And there is a lot of potential. So there you have it. How to charge for a copywriting website. I know I was kind of all over the place with this video, but hopefully my editing prowess helped and you were able to follow along. Make sure you check out the link in the description, because I will link to a blog post where I outline everything I talked about, and that might help as well. Once again, I am Robin the Copy Bitch. This is Stewie, my sidekick sloth. If you like this video, if you find this content helpful, give us a thumbs up because it helps out. Consider subscribing to my channel as well, and we will see you next time.